Well, shooters and reloaders out there, it's Fortune Cookie 45LC coming to you from the hot lead zone. And this, of course, is the Lee Factory Carbide Crimp die. And you know I've called this die the best crimp in the business. But Casual Reloader and Thorzax 777 have mentioned that there's a controversy about this die. And the controversy is that there are a lot of reloaders that really like this die because of what it does. It makes all of our rounds function well and crimps the case to the bullet all in one step to finish off our rounds. We like that. But the people that don't like this die claim that the die causes swedging of the bullet in the case, and that's bad because it reduces the bullet pull or tension of the case to the bullet. Well, it turns out that both sides are right. Well, how's that possible? And you might ask, if the side that doesn't like this die because of the swedging problem is right, then how come you call this die the best crimp in the business? Surely both sides can't be right, but both sides are, and that's the subject of this video. Because, you see, this Lee Carbide Factory Crimp die was never intended to swedge down and resize an entire case because the bullet is way too big, and so when you try and put that in there, it does some real gross resizing. That wasn't what this was intended for. This die has a carbide insert in there, and the purpose of that is to iron out any minor bulges caused by the reloading process that would cause impeded function or chambering of rounds in our guns, so that if you get a little temporary hang-up when you're running a round through this die, that is what we're talking about. This will correct that hang-up so that that round will function. That's the purpose of this die. To illustrate this, let's go ahead to an actual case. What I have here are two Hornady cases because Hornady 45 Colt brass is shorter than standard by that much. You see where the crimp groove is? Well, other rounds, the case is long enough to be right there at that crimp groove. But the Hornady cases are short. So when you run ahead and seat the bullet and then go ahead and crimp it, you can't get a crimp in the crimping groove because it's short. Well, this is why I don't trim my pistol brass. It's not necessary. And if I trim to the shortest case, I want it with a lot of short cases. But this will illustrate what we're talking about. Straight wall pistol brass does not lengthen on firing. And if it doesn't lengthen, they don't need to be trimmed. These bullets are 0.452 to 0.453 in diameter, so that they're ideal in the range that the 45 Colt bullets should be. Now, if I run these in there to crimp, you'll find that there'll be some temporary hang-up, whereas ironing out bulges that are normally a part of the reloading process so that these will chamber well in the gun. So here we go. We take one of those rounds, put it into our press, and then run that into the die. And there, I felt a temporary little bit of a resizing there, and then now we put the crimp, but it's not crimping because the case is short. But that's why we're getting that little bit of correction of the bulge. Here's the second case. There. That's ironing out that little bulge. This is why we like this die. Because then you see the rounds just drop right into the chamber and the gun freely functions. That's why we like the Lee Factory Crimp die. Now, when the Lee Factory Crimp die is used in this way, there's no loss of neck tension because of the proper action of the Lee Factory Crimp die. It doesn't do a lot of correction, just a little bit to improve functioning. No loss of neck tension. So the reloaders and shooters that denigrate the Lee factory crimp die have no beef in this case. By the way, since you viewers out there are really sharp and notice everything, need to let you know that that was caused by shooting a fairly stiff revolver load yesterday, 175 rounds worth. So let's now discuss how the denigrators of this factory crimp die have their point. Now in the Lee bullet mold instruction sheet that comes with every bullet mold, Lee says that bullets must be sized if they are so large that they expand the case too much to freely enter the gun's chamber. Well, I don't have that problem. My bullets either drop at the right diameter, or if they're a little bit on the large side, I resize them so that then when I seat the bullets, they aren't so large that they expand the case too much to function. So that any little problems I have are ironed out by the Lee factory crimp die the way it's supposed to be. Now this cast bullet is intended for the 45-70, but suppose it's a 45 Colt mold and it happens to drop bullets that are 4595 or 460. Now 460 is a lot bigger than 452. In fact, that's really huge. This bullet would have problems in the 45 Colt. But for the sake of argument, I went ahead and loaded 10 of these in the 45 Colt cases, and this is what you wind up with. You can actually load these and seat these bullets in the 45 Colt cases. Now again, bear in mind that these are 459 in diameter, so they are really huge. Now according to Lee, if your bullets are too big to chamber in your revolver, then you cannot use those bullets. You have to size them. Well, let's see what happens when you try and chamber these in a 45 Colt revolver. So suppose you didn't know and you went ahead and loaded those. Notice the bulge there caused by the bullet that's so oversized. Then when you try and load those, look what happens. Lo and behold, they'll actually chamber. So according to Lee, those bullets are not too big to be used. Bear in mind again that those are 459 bullets. Well, it turns out that they don't all chamber. So here are some more of those 10 that I loaded, and you'll see that when you try and load these, they don't chamber. In fact, they get stuck in there. You see, they don't chamber. So then the thinking is, well, I'll just use the Lee factory crimp die, and we'll run these in the Lee factory crimp die, and that'll fix this right up so they'll chamber and we'll be able to be happily shooting that ammo, right? That's where the Lee factory crimp die is not intended to do this. And the detractors of the Lee factory crimp die are absolutely correct. If you were to use the Lee factory crimp die on these rounds, you'll lose neck tension. The reason is you're swedging that down so much that the lead bullet will be swedged down, but the case will spring back out. You'll lose neck tension, and that's not good. We wouldn't like the Lee factory crimp die for that reason. That's not what the Lee factory crimp die's purpose was. So if you're going to run all 10 of those through the Lee factory crimp die, here's one of the rounds that chambered. Let's run that in. And there, you see, there's just a little hesitation. And then we crimp. And we're happy. That didn't lose any neck tension because there wasn't a lot of action there. Now let's take one of the ones that won't chamber. Now you see that was a fair bit more actual resizing that was happening. And yes, we swedged that down a little bit. Let's see if that'll chamber now. We'll go right to the gun. As you see there, trying to do this one-handed. You see it chambers now. And here's the other two. We'll put that one in. I'm not sure we're losing a lot of neck tension there. So now you'll see that these are dropping in nicely, even that one that's got a real bad bulge in the case there. But now that they've gone through the Lee factory crimp die, you see they all just drop in. And they function perfectly. They even drop out. Well, I'll leave it up to you whether you think that's a good idea to fire bullets that are that large in the 45 Colt. But according to the Lee instruction sheet, that's actually okay because they chamber. Plus, I don't see any loss of neck tension. Well, I know the detractors are saying that you lose neck tension, and I actually agree that that'll happen, but it's got to be excessive. For instance, if you ran this through your resizing die, you would definitely lose neck tension. So there's the two controversial positions on the Lee factory crimp die, but I think you'll find that the Lee factory crimp die is a very useful die because it does improve functioning to the point where rounds drop in and drop out instead of you having to give them a little push to get them all the way in. So that's why we really like that die. And no, we're not supposed to try and make 4.59 size bullets work in the 45 Colt using the Lee factory crimp die. We don't want to do something like that because that would be stretching things, even though what the Lee says is bullets must be sized if they are so large that they expand the case too much to freely enter the gun's chamber. So even a 45 Colt, 4.59, 4.60 size bullets are not too large, but we wouldn't want to shoot those through our guns. So you might ask, how do we protect ourselves from shooting bullets that are overly large? And the way we do that is by using our micrometer. When you get bullets that are 4.59, you're not going to use those in your 45 Colt. You're going to resize them. The other way is when you try and put a 4.59 bullet through your cylinder throat, the thing is so huge, it doesn't even try to go in. You know the bullets are too big. You do want bullets that are 0.001 to 0.002 bigger than your cylinder throats, but that bullet is actually hung up on the ogive just in front of the shoulder. You'd have to get a hammer to pound that through. So I went ahead and pulled two of those bullets, and there's the powder, and what you'll see is a couple of the bulge cases here. But the important thing is where these bullets swedged down. And let's go ahead and measure those. And you'll see we're getting 4.59, 4.60, 4.57, 4.61. Then we'll take the second one that we pulled, and we're getting 4.57, 4.56. That's not bad there. 4.56, 4.58, and 4.57. So you see, we didn't really swedge those down using the Lee factory crimp die. So Thorzax 777 and Casual Reloader, thank you very much for the idea to do this video. So take care, and all of you out there, good reloading to you.